Okay, so in this video, what I'm going to walk you through is the critical reflection, which is a significant portion of your portfolio. It is as relevant to your portfolio as Portfolio SA1 and Portfolio SA2. And it is an opportunity for you to reflect on how your writing has developed over the course of this semester. Probably the best way to start thinking about the critical reflection is to first get a sense of what critical reflections look like, okay? And what I have included in the assignment is some samples of critical reflections. These are critical reflections that are not perfect, but they are moving in a good direction. Okay, and what I want you to see is that they are multi-paragraph responses. That will become evident pretty quickly. And generally what they try to do is demonstrate for the reader how and where it is in the portfolio your writing is meeting our basic standards. Okay, so that'll become more evident as you actually work through the assignment. But I would just take a few minutes at the beginning of all of this just to read these two things, just to get a sense of what it can look like before you get into a formal effort to generate your own. So that would be my first piece of advice, is to take some time and do that. Okay, so let's start with the critical reflection draft, and we'll think about how this will work this week. At this point in the semester, you've written and received feedback on both your portfolio essay drafts. With these drafts and their feedback in mind, we can now turn our attention to the third text of the portfolio, the critical reflection. Though our work will be focused on particular passages from your portfolio essays, you'll also be connecting that work to the broader demands, readings, and activities of the course, as well as your own emerging sense of who you are and who you are turning into, as to say at UMaine, not as UMaine. So one of the things we want to be aware of here is that in the portfolio, and you saw this if you took the time to read the samples, in the portfolio critical reflection, you will be pointing to specific examples of your own writing from Portfolio Essay 1 and Portfolio Essay 2, and you'll be talking about how that writing meets some of our basic course expectations. That has to happen, okay? Critical reflections that don't document claims from your own portfolio essays fail the portfolio review. Let me say that again. Critical reflections that are not actively and continually citing and documenting claims from your portfolio essays, Portfolio Essay 1 and Portfolio Essay 2, will fail almost certainly the portfolio review. So it's really important that you do that, and you'll get some sense of what that looks like when you look at the samples, if you haven't looked at the samples yet. If you haven't looked at the samples yet, you really need to stop the video and go read through those samples just to get a sense of what that material looks like, okay? So I would encourage you, if you haven't yet, to pause the video here. Okay, now I'm assuming you have actually read through that material. Okay, so what do I do? How do I approach this work? Well, the first thing you want to do is read and annotate Threshold Concept 5.4. And I want to show you that. It's not, again, the whole thing. It's just 5.4, which is located on page 78. You have a piece by Kara Takzak. Reflection is critical for writer's development. It's not particularly long. It's a page and a half. Okay, so you want to read and annotate that. Now, that will give you some sense of why it's important to reflect on our writing and how we're developing as writers. Okay. Your reading and annotating should stay tightly focused on the work that reflection does for writers and how it impacts their development. And you'll have a better sense of what reflection means when you actually read that piece. When you're finished reading and annotating the threshold concept, use your thinking from there to look over the portfolio drafts you've written. With passages from Takzak in mind, identify points in the drafts that provide insight into particularly salient composing choices. So let's talk about what I mean by particularly salient composing choices. What I mean are, where can I see you making decisions in the portfolio papers that are in line with the PARS, conventions of academic discourse. Where are you summarizing? Where are you paraphrasing? Where are you documenting claims? Where are you extending examples? Where are you doing that kind of work? Okay, let me know where it's happening. Let me know why it's happening. Let me know how it's happening. You don't need to hit everything, but you might reflect on your efforts to extend examples. You might reflect on your efforts to document claims. And you need to indicate where you're doing these things, but more importantly, you need to talk about how these choices enable your writing to meet its goals. So why does that choice that you make to document, to summarize, to paraphrase, how does that choice work to help the reader understand what it is you're trying to say in an academic context? That's really important. And you'll see authors working in that direction when you look at the samples that are presented above. Okay, but to come back to the reading and annotating. So you're looking through your work and you're annotating for particularly important composition choices. And when we talk about important composition choices, what we mean are composition choices that are important in the context of the class you're in. Okay? Annotate these points by summarizing why they are important, both for the lines of inquiry you are developing and your own developing idea of who you are and the kind of writer you are becoming. That's really key. The critical reflection isn't going to be particularly well received if it just says, I did this, I did this, I did this, I did this. What they're looking for is, I did this here, and here is why I did this. Here is how this choice helps me meet the expectations of the assignment. Here is how this choice helps me communicate my ideas to the reader. That kind of writing is really important. When you have finished reading and annotating, compose a text in which you analyze the composing decisions that you made in your portfolio essay drafts. Be sure that you cite and analyze particular passages from the text during this work. In terms of citing your own work, if you turned in a 4-page paper and you're citing something from page 3, just put page 3 in parentheses to cite it, or page 4 in parentheses to cite it. That's fine. Remember that you have plenty of decisions to choose from. So you'll want to focus on the meaningful choices that will help you explore why and how you constructed the text in the way you did. As you are analyzing your composing decisions, you'll want to contextualize those decisions within the course outcomes. That is, the portfolio assessment rubric language. It's a very good idea to be actively quoting from the portfolio assessment rubric when you're composing your critical reflection. You'll see evidence of that in the samples that I provide above. Course texts and conversations that we've had on the discussion boards. Keep in mind when doing this contextualizing that your reader is a college composition instructor but not a member of this class. So again, we always need to be careful to introduce and explain to the reader the ideas we're working with and why we're working with them. Okay, so that's the key information I want you to be worried about. I'm actually going to be providing a different video on how it is the portfolio should be put together. That's not going to be this video. So really all I want you focused on right now is completing the draft of the critical reflection and turning that in. Okay, that's really important. So we'll do that. We'll turn that in by the due date, and then we'll go forward from there. Okay, good luck with the work. Let me know if you have any questions.